down for a second then. Yeah, this is a new series which I'm doing. There we go. This is a new series which I'm doing, which primarily consists of me starting up a game, like a new game, getting so far into it, and then talking about my opinion on the game thus far. I'm sorry if you can hear me moving the mic around. I haven't got really it's because of that. There we go. Yeah. This is called Extreme Paranoia, which basically is me throwing out my opinion on the game so far and whether I think it's going to go in a good or a bad direction. So, starting off with Ratchet and Clank. The reason why I start off with this game is because I've actually wanted to talk about my worries with this game right from the get-go. But I didn't really want to throw any bad notions out there during the playthrough, so I'm throwing it out there now, okay? My issue with this game, right now, from what I've played of the game, I don't think the game's going to be bad. Okay, if anything, I think this game's going to go just fine, okay? I've had a look at reviews and all this sort of stuff, which I know I shouldn't do before I finish a game, but I was curious about this one. See, I don't want to fill up my walkthroughs or gameplay videos with me primarily just ranting on about my worries for a game. I want to react to the game, which I tried to do, but I couldn't really keep this in. I'm going to be doing another video on like Dark Souls 3 for Extreme Paranoia a bit later on, but for now, let's stick to Ratchet and Clank. So, what's my problem with the game? Why have I been so nervous around playing this? It's because it's a film tie-in game. Okay, this game, for me, is completely unneeded. Okay, no matter how good you make a game, if a franchise is good, if a franchise is 100% fine, everyone accepts it, even if it dies down just a little, okay, don't you think it's better to end the franchise, or at least continue with it for a tiny bit more, than just to, right on the spot, let's make a reimagining or a reboot? Because I can't really think of that many games that, or films for that matter, that have actually done this to this extent. Spider-Man, I guess you could throw out that as an exception, but I mean, at least they waited before they rebooted it. This is like a year after Into the Nexus, and that was a fine game. I enjoyed Into the Nexus. A lot of people enjoyed the game. In fact, I can't think of a bad Ratchet and Clank game, and they've been running just fine. Okay, people happily pick them up, even if the advertisement isn't like loud or anything like that. If my problem with Into the Nexus was the fact that it wasn't advertised enough. I picked it up about I don't know, a few months after it was released because I didn't hear of it until then, and then I played through it and I was happy. It was a good game. Now, you see, I get this is a reimagining of the first game, and it's going to tie into the film, okay? And which the film is a reimagining of the first game as well. But that's my issue, okay? Sure, you can do what like Tomb Raider and Halo and all these companies have done. You can make a successful reimagining, but the problem with this is, like with games like Tomb Raider. Like with Tomb Raider Anniversary, if the game is particularly good, if the reimagining is particularly good, people will want more. And if people are, I get what you're doing here, okay? I 100% get this. You're showing off how far, as a development team, and how far the series has come. Just show off what you can do now and where the future of the series is going. I enjoy that. That's a really good reason. But my issue with this is, you're drawing in new people for the franchise, okay? You're drawing in people that are playing Ratchet and Clank for the first time into the franchise. So, they can't continue the old series now. This is my issue. Like, they could have cut the series off. I would have been fine with that, okay? And then if you're going to reboot it, at least give us, like, a few years, like, before you do that. Don't do it literally the next year later. I could be wrong. It might have been 2 years since. But still, that's way too early just to go, we're going to be making a reboot now. It's just unneeded. Like, I'm all for bringing new people into the series, okay? 100% for that. But this is a series that's been running for a while, and it has continued for a while. You can't just on a dime reboot it like that without pissing off all the people that have played the prior games, because now those prior games mean nothing anymore. Now, what I'm saying is purely speculation, okay? But all I'm saying at the moment is that these guys, with whichever way, whatever they're going to be doing for the future, whether or not they're going to be making a sequel to Into the Nexus, or starting a new chapter, as they did, because there was Ratchet and Clank and then there was Ratchet and Clank Future. If they're starting a new chapter, I'm all for that as well. But the thing is, if they reboot it, or even if they continue off of what they've already started, they're going to piss off someone massively. That's the equivalent of them going halfway through the Harry Potter films, or halfway through Star Wars films, and then just stopping it and then go, we're going to reboot this for a new audience, and then forget the previous entries. That, you don't want to do that. If it has a good following, and it still has a good following, then continue with your franchise. Continue with where you're going. Either that or cut it off. Don't start it over. You can't. It's a hard line between what's wrong and right with what's happening at the moment. My opinion, you should have stuck with the film. You shouldn't have made a reboot. You shouldn't have made a reimagining of the game. Okay. I said, once again, this is purely speculation. I can't call this game a reboot because it's a reimagining. Which I know that's what a reboot is. It's a remake, okay? But Resident Evil and numerous other games have done a reimagining before and continued with the series just fine. But they've looked into when the best time to do the reboots are. Let's go back to Resident Evil as an example. Resident Evil was having a bit of a downtime, okay? It was having a bit of an issue with games such as Resident Evil 6, and then whilst Revelations and Revelations 2 were good, it was dipping a bit. So they had an excuse to remake the game in order to bring it back to its core, in order to see where they went right with the first one. And I'm all for companies doing this, but you can't do that on a dime, okay? Revelations I consider to be a spin-off, okay, and that was a game that started last year and it ended last year with those games. So, of Resident Evil, recently, it was bringing the game back to its core. They saw a time when the game needed to be looked back at most. And as I said, I'm all for that. What I'm not all for is a company making a successful game, making a successful series, and then getting up to a point and going, right, we're just going to stop this. Hang on. Sorry, my dog's barking. Yeah, I'm not for a game just like on a dime just going, no, I'm not. I don't care much for what the fans think, whether or not it's a successful series or not. We're rebooting the series. Because you probably by now you get you get my paranoia. You get what I'm saying. But it still stands. I'm going to play through this game, and I'm going to get to a point where, in my mind, I mean, sure, I'll complete this game. I'll be able to finish this game on my channel. Just give me, like, a week or so. This game will be done, and I'll be satisfied with it. I'm sure this is a satisfying game. It's the fact that the success of this game and the new people going into the game is more than not going to start a new franchise. It's going to reboot the entire thing. I don't want them to reboot the entire thing, but at the same time, I don't want the entire... I like this series. I care for this series. If they do this, if they reboot the series, it's not what I want, but I can deal with it. Okay, I can deal with them rebooting the series. I'm more worried that they're gonna make a sequel that follows this game rather than Into the Nexus, and the company's gonna suffer for it. I'm worried that they are going to make a sequel for Into the Nexus rather than this game, and the company's gonna suffer for it. They need to state 100% what this game is. You can't... There's certain games when you can be all mysterious about them, okay? Like sequels. Sequels are fine. You can be as elusive as God knows what with those games, okay? Destiny, for example. We had no idea what Destiny was going to be until it released. And for the most part, people were fine with it. I mean, I know there's a lot of hate and all that, but for the most part, it got to a point where the game was running fine and all that. People were fine with the way it was done because it was its own thing. This game is not its own thing. This game has been built upon the grounds of something that already exists and something that has already redefined itself several times. This is like, we've gotten up to a point in the Elder Scrolls now where we want to see what happens in the future of this world, and then it's pretty much like, screw it, we're remaking Skyrim, we're remaking Oblivion, okay, and then we're gonna be remaking Skyrim after Oblivion. Nobody wants that. We want to see what happens next. If a series is already using the technology of today, then there's no need to redefine what you've already done. Okay, aside from that, my only other issues with what I can see the game heading for at the moment is the gameplay mechanics. The graphics are beautiful, okay, but I think the game suffers for that as well. Two different topics. I'll get onto the gameplay first, and then we'll move on to the graphics. Gameplay wise, it's Ratchet & Clank. It's what you know Ratchet & Clank is, and if you like Ratchet & Clank games, you're going to like this game. The only problem is you're going to reach a point in the game where you're going to feel this foreboding, you're going to feel this poking in your back, and you'll realise that's because we've had we've had well over some like 7 games now in the Ratchet & Clank series. It's more than that. It's definitely more than that. And throughout these games, each game has introduced a new mechanic that has worked well. Reimagining and rebooting a game will give you the limitation of stripping all those new mechanics away and just going back to the core mechanics of the game. It's like, say like the first Street Fighter game, it had no combos, okay? I don't know, it probably does, but say like the first Street Fighter game only has the ability to punch and kick. If they remade Street Fighter based on those old mechanics only, then all the like veteran players and all this sort of stuff of the series are going to be glad that it was remade. They're going to see that the heart was there when they remade it. They can see that they followed the guidelines exactly, step by step, to what it means to make this game, what the title of the game means, and all this sort of stuff. But they're going to be annoyed that it means that they have to go back to basics. The idea a good franchise not only builds the game, but it builds the player. Over time, when you play a game, you want to get better and better at it, which means that if a sequel is made, like around a decade ago when a sequel was made, initially all of the gameplay mechanics would have been reset, but Ratchet and Clank and games like Sly Fox, Sly Cooper it was, and no, it's Sly Fox and Sly Cooper, the same thing, or Jak and Daxter, and these were all from the same company. Okay, these are all the same company. This is the company that is known like Naughty Dog, okay, and Insomniac Games. These companies are probably the leading companies in the idea that a sequel doesn't have to reset a player's difficulty level. A sequel doesn't have to reset the state of mind of a player when going into it. It doesn't have to be fresh from the get-go. All of these games have been known for, as soon as you start into it, the difficulty from where you left off in the previous game continues, and you only get better and better at it, because the game's evolving the player into getting better and better at the game. So when you start from scratch, when you move away from everything you've done, that won't piss people off, but that will confuse them a lot. So I hope you get what I'm saying there. It's a very difficult thing to throw out there, but it's like all the gadgets, all the guns, they were made for tough situations later on in the franchise, later on in the series. And now that you've just turned the clocks back, all that knowledge, what I'm saying is this game could either prove to be too easy for veteran players, or it's going to be too frustrating because they don't have access to that difficulty level. Sure, they can up the difficulty level, but they don't have the same feeling and the same continuation feeling as the previous entries in the franchise. As a standard Ratchet and Clank game, as a reimagining, it's doing a fine job. It's probably going to be amazing by the time I finish it. That's all I'm saying. But I reckon it's going to suffer from moving back. Okay, enough about that rant. Let's go on to why I think the graphics are going to be an issue in the game. This is a remake or a reimagining in every sense of the word. Literally, you start off in the same place as the original, the same planets as the original, and it's the same structured levels as the original with a few new things thrown in there. I'm fine with that. The only issue I have with this is the fact that they've put it on the newest version of the engine, and I get this, it's probably from me playing games like Dark Souls, but players on the current generation of console get the feeling that when you see something in the background, you get the ability to run towards it. But because this is a remake of the PS2 game, that's not the case. Like, you will see me in like the first episode of the playthrough, open up out of the garage, you see the city in the background, and you will want to run to it. But the planet's actually 10 times smaller than you think. And I reckon for people that are being introduced into a franchise, this is going to be a bit of an issue. They're going to expect more out of the game, is what I'm saying. And for someone who has played the previous entries, I can respect the decision for this. But for people that haven't played a single Ratchet and Clank game in the past, going into this one, this could be an issue with all the game standards of today. So yeah, all I'm saying is, if you're going to play a game like this, and you've played the previous, if you played the previous games, this game might throw a few issues in your direction. You might not get the same rush as before, you may not get the same feeling of progression as before, because the progression has stopped and reset. However, if you're new into the franchise, you're probably going to get more enjoyment out of this game than the people that have played it before. You're also probably going to get frustrated with the idea of next-gen games that have had so much availability, so much so much functionality, that this game is literally remaking the PS2 version, to the fact that you're not going to be used to this limitation. So yeah, I reckon by the time I finish the game, I'm going to have a good time with it. But for now, I still have my queries. I wanted to throw this out in a video before I continue with the playthrough, because I thought it might be good for you guys to get my opinion on where I think the game's going. But for now, I've been Extremeprey, and it's been Extreme Paranoia. So I'll probably do one on Dark Souls 3 and a few other games later on, because oh my god, the games industry, what's happening. So yeah, see you guys